All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. E3 is only technically just beginning over in the US where it's taking place, but for those of us all around the world, E3 is now, unfortunately, coming to a close. The conferences are done. The announcements, for the most part, the major ones are over, although we are hearing rumours of some announcements to happen on the E3 show floor itself. Big words are supposedly going to be dropped by Warner Brothers on the 14th of this month, so keep your eyes out for a few more things. But what a way to close out the conferences. This was damned fine, Nintendo. This was far better than I expected a little bit, but also a lot more different than I expected as well. Let's jump into this. My name is Cameron McCulloch-Keeble, and I am one third of the hosts of this show. Lewis is again in Copenhagen, so he will be joining us for our full review of E3 that comes out later this evening. But let's start and work our way through Nintendo. The way we do this is we will go from the very first announcement to the very last in chronological order, giving the most time to the big announcements and the smallest time to the little announcements, although sometimes the big ones are small games, which I'll talk about in a second. So we started the Direct with an announcement of a new game called Daemon X Machinima. It was a super action-packed trailer, very explosive, very, very lively. It's got very Nintendo Switchy graphics and art style. It's got there was a Freudian slip. It's got quite cartoony art style in the same way that Zelda and Mario, well, less so Mario, but Zelda has quite a realistic but a bit anime inspired, a bit Saturday morning cartoon inspired art style. This has a similar thing. It's very mech based. The action looks big. The action looks quite aggressive, super aggressive actually for a Switch exclusive game. And there's a great deal of sort of pyrotechnics and explosions and stuff. And as I said, this seems to be a Switch exclusive. They said it was coming to Nintendo Switch and didn't detail anything else. They did just say Switch at the end. And yeah, it's out next year. So it seems like a really cool exclusive for the console. This is not the kind of announcement I expected to see here. Very cool stuff. Then we got some DLC announcement for Xenoblade 2. It's called Torna, the Golden Country, and it comes out in September this year. Very cool. Then we got some a little bit of news on Pokemon Let's Go. Some odd news. I think that the Pokeball peripheral is usable as a controller for the entire game, which is a nice touch. It's good to make a peripheral that really adds value to the game and isn't just slightly gimmicky, which is really good. Although the bit that does get me a little bit is they announced that Mew will be exclusive with this peripheral, which is fine, but I do hope it doesn't stop people getting that Pokemon in the real game. The word on the street is that this Mew is exclusive with this peripheral, which I think is Mew and Mewtwo and those legendary Pokemon are very, very special, especially to the hardcore players that have been with Pokemon since Gen 1, who this game is really targeted at. And I hope they haven't made a sales mistake there. But also, I hope that people get the chance to play it and like the Pokeball. So it's a weird kind of crossover thing that's happening there. Next up, we got an announcement of Super Mario Party. This looked awesome. We expected a Mario Party announcement for this game. There's been rumours of it coming for a long time. And if you look at kind of the games that we expect them to make in the next few years and from the start of the Switch, Mario Party was absolutely, definitely up there. But I didn't expect it to look as good as it does. Firstly, the art style of the titles of the game have a new look. They look almost Snipperclips inspired. And it just looked fantastic. The presentation looked fantastic. The new games look really fun, and the way that they're integrating the Switch looks really fun. So now you can play on multiple screens and combine them together by tapping on the different screens so that you can kind of change the angle of how you play, which I thought is good. There was also you can turn your Switch screens away from each other so that when you're doing team battles, you can really put tactics into them. That I thought is a great idea. I think this could be quite a good game for streamers, especially if Nintendo shows a little bit more support to them. And I'd like to see how they would integrate those kind of tactics into watching the game, because Mario Party is quite a good game to watch as well as play. But it looked great nonetheless. And the new games look a little bit 1-2 Switch inspired. So where there's a kind of tactical approach to the games in 1-2 Switch, who draws first, who's going to make the first move, how difficult do you make it, how much do you challenge your enemy. There seems to be a similar kind of tactical thing in mind here. with Super Mario Party. That's a great thing. 1-2-Switch came out and lots of people really, really enjoyed it. Many people asked why it wasn't a WarioWare, and I was surprised that we didn't see a WarioWare this time around, but the games in Super Mario Party definitely look 1-2-Switch inspired, and I think that's a great thing for the game and that franchise going forward. The best news about it, though, is that it being a Switch exclusive, it being a brand new game, it's out this year. Very cool stuff. Then we got an announcement of a new Fire Emblem. I gotta say, I thought this trailer was one of the slower and less impressive ones of the conference. It was super Japanese, so it doesn't land already not too well with me, but I have trouble kind of getting hyped over Japanese trailers. They're a very, very different style of making trailers. But the what's the word? The fidelity of the game looks fine. The art style of the game looks fine. It was a super slow trailer. I imagine if you're into Fire Emblem, the mechanics they showed off, like the formation battles and stuff they showed off and the characters they showed off was a big thing. But for me, it felt a little bit draggy. And then we also didn't really get a title for it, and the only details we got for it was 2019, which is fine. We expect a lot of 2019s, especially from this E3. It's been a 2019 heavy E3. But I would have liked a little bit more set in stone for an announcement of this size, because Fire Emblem is quite big for a lot of people. Then we got the announcement that people have known about for a couple of weeks now. Fortnite is coming out to the Nintendo Switch. In fact, it comes out on the Nintendo Switch. Let me check. Current time, PT. In 9 minutes at the time of this recording. It comes out at 10 a.m. on the Nintendo Switch over there, which means if you have a Nintendo Switch, by the time you're hearing this, you can play Fortnite, which is actually really cool. The game looks great graphically and in fidelity-wise. Not infidelity-wise, it's not cheating on anyone. Fidelity-wise, it looks just as good, I would say, as the other consoles. There may be, a difference in frame rate or draw distance or the kind of technical things that the Switch does struggle with a little bit, but the gameplay looks absolutely great. The graphics and the art style look totally fine, exactly as you'd expect from Fortnite. The one question I have about this game, though, is which Fortnite is it? Because by the announcement itself was talked about as a title, it was said, Fortnite is coming to the Switch. But the only gameplay we really got shown was Fortnite Battle Royale. Now, Battle Royale is, of course, the big mode for Fortnite. It's the big everyone plays it, you can get it for free mode. But I must admit, I'm kind of more excited about the idea of the hardcore core game of Fortnite coming to the Switch. Fortnite is a great idea for a game, and whilst having a multiplayer Battle Royale thing for the Switch is a really good thing, and a really good way of drawing more people into the game, I kind of like the idea of having that hardcore single-player story, I guess, single-player campaign thing to play on the Switch as well. So I'd like a little bit more clarification on that, but nonetheless, Battle Royale is definitely coming to the Switch, and you can probably already play it. That's a cool announcement. The next announcement we got was one of my favourite announcements of E3. Fucking Overcooked is back. We've got Overcooked 2. It's coming out this year on August 7th. There was no word of exclusivity, so I imagine it's an all-platforms kind of game. And if it is, oh my god, I can't wait to play this game. I love Overcooked. If you haven't played Overcooked, my god, you should. Team 17 nail it every time they put out a game, and Overcooked is no exception. That's out August 7th this year. Very exciting. Then big news, and it might not be big news for you at home, especially in the UK, who probably haven't heard about it as much, but this is big news, believe me. Killer Queen Black is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, Killer Queen is an arcade game that came out a few years ago, and it's hugely popular. It's one of the most popular arcade games that's been released in the last few years. I was listening to Kinda Funny talk about it recently, and they explained that they see it in a lot of bars that they go to, especially in San Francisco, where arcades and barcades are supported quite heavily, and the queue for it is never short. In fact, it's barely ever reachable if you're going in for a couple of drinks in a bar. This is the first time that Killer Queen has come to arcades, and as I said, it being one of the most popular battle arcade games that's come out in recent years, the fact that it's exclusive to Nintendo, at least when it launches, if not for its lifespan, is actually a big thing. This is one of those games that I think will go under the radar a little bit, a bit of an underdog. You might have to pay attention to it to sort of really know how good it is or how well it's doing, but it could also be one of those games that's a total sleeper hit, especially if games journalists, especially those people who have an understanding of how good it is before it launches, get the chance to really hype it up and support it. So keep an eye on Killer Queen. That could be a really big thing, and apparently the gameplay is utterly stellar. Also, launching exclusively first. That's a big thing for Nintendo. This conference was a big way of them showing we're back on the third-party train, and you can't stop us. And man, this was good shit from them. Okay, next up we got Hollow Knight. They've been talking about Hollow Knight for a little bit, but it's out today on Switch. That's very cool. If you like those games, Hollow Knight is one of the better ones of them, and the fact that not only is it definitely coming, but it's basically already here. Cool shit. Next up we got Octopath Shitty title. As we know, it's coming out in July. We got that announcement from Square the other day. We didn't know that it's getting a demo. It's getting a demo in 2 days. So if you really want to play this game, and a lot of people do, because it does look great and the art style looks beautiful, and the core kind of RPG gameplay of it that we haven't seen, especially like this and on Nintendo in a while, is a really good thing. Just, God, that title. But the demo comes out in 2 days, so keep an eye on that if you're interested. Then, my God, we got one hell of a sizzle reel. And the reason we got a sizzle reel is because this was kind of the end of the conference before something else. And you know what that something else is, but we'll get to it in 2 seconds. So we got a sizzle reel of a bunch of games coming to the Nintendo Switch for fall 2018. It was very much a kind of, look, we've got a bunch of tentpoles as well. And it included, this is not all of them by any means. These are the big ones that I took from it. So it included Starlink, which comes out in October. Minecraft, which comes out in the end of June, I think. The end of June. My wonderful partner over there who bought a Switch in the last couple of weeks confirming it for me. Pixel Arc, which is seemingly a new version of Ark Survival Evolved that's kind of like Minecraft. This is really interesting because Ark is a fantastic concept that's a fucking terrible game. It's not terrible in terms of gameplay, it's just terrible in terms of the way that the team and the publisher has supported it. So I'm going to do a bit of research into that, look at how I feel about it, but like, my initial response is, oh, that's cool. Ark is a really interesting idea for a game. Maybe they'll do this one properly. But at the same time, oh, that's worrying because they really didn't do the last one properly. Just Dance 2019, Splatoon DLC, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is out in a couple of weeks, Crash fucking Bandicoot. How did we not see more of Crash this E3? Like, before I carry on with this sizzle reel, Crash was one of the biggest selling exclusive games to come out last year, and nobody expected that in the slightest. In a year of some fucking giant games, a Bandicoot from the 1990s is one of the biggest selling games. How was it not everywhere this E3? Maybe I'm just too excited for Crash Bandicoot. We've only got weeks to wait. All right. So Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy coming out at the end of the month. Carcassonne was then, I think, shadow announced for the Switch, which is actually really cool. Carcassonne is a hardcore board game, and it getting a video game version makes a lot of sense, especially on a console that's so socially facing as the Switch. I could see a lot of people gathering around the Switch to play this game. Cool addition. Then we got FIFA 19 announced for the Switch. Clearly, FIFA 18 sold well enough. That's great. Really good to see EA continuing to support the console, especially with how they launched, with how the console launched, and they were very skeptical of it. So that's good. We then got a little bit of a trailer for Dark Souls. The game looks beautiful, but we still didn't get a release date. We got a release window of summer 2018, which doesn't give it much more time. But I'm kind of concerned that we got that window with no release date. That worried me a little bit. Then Wolfenstein, and Wolfenstein looks great. I'm genuinely impressed at the graphical fidelity of this game. You think Wolfenstein 2 that came out last year was one of the most beautiful games that came out on console last year. People were hugely praising not just its graphical fidelity, but its art style, and it doesn't look like too much of a compromise on the Switch. That's a very good thing. Then we got Mega Man 11, dope. Looking forward to that game a lot. And that kind of closed out the sizzle reel. But there was a bunch of stuff in there as well. There was a Dragon Ball game, I believe. There was some other stuff. There was so much of it, I couldn't write it all down. That was one hell of a sizzle reel. Then Nintendo picked up the microphone that they've been using to do all of E3 so far and dropped it off of such a long cliff that it could potentially murder the people stood below. Because then they did a deep dive on Super Smash Bros. And holy Christ, does this game look good. The big thing that's exciting everyone about Super Smash Bros. This year is all the characters are in it. Now, when I say all the characters, I mean... Oh, sorry for a yawn. Still first yawn of today, that's not bad. When I say all the characters, I mean all the characters that have ever been in Smash Bros. Ever. I genuinely... Sorry about that. I genuinely can't believe that they pulled this off. We were expecting a lot of characters. We were expecting some really exciting characters from Smash, but all of the characters, that's huge. And there's a couple of reasons why it's huge. Firstly, it means that this is a very, very deep, very expansive game. There's over 60 characters in this game. I can't think of another fighting game with that many characters, but also that much variety. Those characters include really hardcore Nintendo stuff like Mario, Link, Star Fox, Captain Falcon, so on and so forth. But it also includes Pokemon, Pichu, Clefairy, and Pikachu, and the Pokemon Trainer. It also includes Mega Man and the Wii Fit Trainer. It also includes the Miis. And that all has to work in one game. It all has to work and have one fighting style in one game. That's a big thing. The other reason it's big is because it's massive on the third-party front. This game includes Cloud from Final Fantasy. This is the most Final Fantasy we saw E3, and that's big when you think the last time we saw Final Fantasy VII was on Sony stage nearly 4 years ago. To see this kind of deal-making from Nintendo is a good thing, but I think the biggest one, undeniably, is Snake. Now, the reason Snake is so exciting is because we didn't think Metal Gear was maybe ever going to be seen again. Konami have not been the kind of people in the last few years to be making deals, certainly not with the only franchise that they seem to be keeping sacred and actually caring for. And the fact that not only is Snake in this game, but Mother Base is in this game, and that so much attention and detail has been paid to bringing him back, that's a really fucking good sign. I'm not saying that we should be putting our hopes in Konami that we're going to get Metal Gear Solid 6 or Metal Gear Solid remakes or this, that, the other. I still think we've probably got a long way to go until Konami either do something good with the franchise or give it to somebody who will, but they're willing to play ball with it, and that's so goddamn exciting. When you think about this alongside all the other hardcore Nintendo characters and the new ones that were announced, which include Daisy, who is a Echo character of Peach, kind of, I think, like a variation on characters when you used to get fighting games where you would press up instead of sideways to choose a version of a character rather than a new character. So Daisy is an Echo, in inverted commas, of Peach. We also got the Inklings added. We're getting the Ice Climbers back, finally, and Ridley from Metroid was announced as a new character. Not exactly the new character we were hoping for. Everybody has been hyping for a long, long time that we were hoping to see Crash Bandicoot in this game. It didn't happen this year, unfortunately, though there is always the chance of DLC down the line. And of course, we were all hoping that Banjo would turn up as well. No playing ball there either, unfortunately. But again, DLC down the line may well make it happen. This demo went on for 15 or 20 minutes, and I've got to say, man, last night Sony were hyping up, we're going to do deep dives of everything. You're going to know a huge amount more about these games. Dear Sony, this is how you deep dive. This was 20 minutes. This was the same amount of time that was spent on Ghost of Tsushima, for example, and I feel like I know every single part of Smash Brothers. Every new feature, every new system, every new stage, every new character, how the game will play, how it will feel, but most importantly, and I put this down as a prediction, I did not think this was happening. This is not Smash for the Wii U. This is a brand new Smash game. This looks like it's been built for the ground up. It has a new title, it has a new roster, it has new systems, it's got new stages, it's got new fighting styles, new mechanics. This is what people wanted. And they've been saying that the whole way through the conference. One of the big things that Nintendo made an effort to say here was, we know fans want this. We know that we can bring it to you. They have done a fucking stellar job of launching a console from the ashes of the Wii and the Wii U family and actually turning it into something that not only Nintendo fans want, but that turns gamers alike into new Nintendo fans. I was one of the biggest Nintendo skeptics in the Wii and the Wii U generation. And man alive, this was such a great conference, this was such a great showing from Nintendo, and this was such a great way of them saying, look, we are playing harder than we've played in a long time, and Smash is one of the biggest ways that we're doing it. It comes out in December this year. Man alive, I can't believe how good this conference was. They not only did they show that they have the strongest exclusive game this year, which undeniably, at the end of this year, Sony has an incredibly strong exclusive game for the start of this year with God of War and Detroit. Those two games are fantastic. They play fantastically. They've received incredible critical acclaim. So Microsoft had Sea of Thieves, which is fine. It's done well. Its community is really growing and it's being supported great. So it is actually doing quite well for Xbox, but it's not quite on the level that we wanted to see. But Nintendo, man, Super Smash Bros. At the end of the year, Super Mario Party before that, and 2 new Pokemon games, Let's Go and Quest this year as well. I am so excited for it. And to top it all off, you can also use your GameCube controller to play Smash. That's a super big community thing. They really did a push on community and listening to fans this year. What an exciting last conference from E3 2018. What a wonderful closeout to the conferences. As I said, if you're in the USA, firstly, what are you doing listening to this? Go to the show floor. There's so much there for you. Or maybe you're in a queue and listening to this, in which case, enjoy yourselves. Tell us what you're demoing. That would be cool. But if you're in the US, E3 actually starts today. The show starts today, and we'll have reveals going on through it. So we are getting a new Warner Brothers game. People are saying it's probably Mortal Kombat, but there's always the chance. There's always the chance it's Rocksteady. It's probably not Rocksteady. But E3 starts today. But for us, E3 wraps up today. So tonight, you will see a review of E3 from me and Lewis saying who we think our winner of E3 was, what we thought of the show overall, what we're most excited about, all that lovely jazz. And we'll be putting Lewis's reactions out throughout the week. We tried to yesterday and the day before, but there was just so much editing and turnaround to do. We wanted to make sure they're edited properly rather than edited quickly. You've had quick reactions from us and me throughout the week. You'll have full reactions from Lewis throughout the week as well. So you won't miss out on those, don't worry. And we'll have a review, and we will be back with a regular podcast next week. Until then, thank you so much for joining us for this. It's been an absolute pleasure. Happy E3. We'll see you at Gamescom, the Game Awards, and of course E3 next week. Next week? Holy shit, no thank you. Next year. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much. And the game is well and truly for this week going to bed, because it's up.